You're watching StratNews Global. I'm Amitabh Revi, and it's a pleasure to introduce India's former High Commissioner to the UK, Ruchi Ghanashyam. Ma'am, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Amitabh. I appreciate your time.
Not at all. It's just been about 2 months, Ambassador Ghanashyam, since you've given up the post there and come back. And a lot has changed. Even if the world remains the same, we've seen countries' behaviors changing. We've seen what's happened on the LAC with China. Just to get an understanding of how the UK is reacting, how would you look at the UK's reaction in terms of Huawei, in terms of the BNO and Hong Kong, and various other measures, even suspending the extradition treaty with Hong Kong that looks into human rights? Would you say that the UK, at least in Europe, is leading the battle against the threat of China, unlike, say, Angela Merkel and Germany, who's seen as a laggard?
In UK, there are all these several issues that are very important to UK in this context. You mentioned Hong Kong. Hong Kong is very important for UK because of their historic relationship over there. Huawei, there has been a movement. There has been a lot of opposition, especially from sections of the Conservative Party. The Foreign Affairs Committee for the House of Commons Chairman Tom Tugendhat has been also, writing and been very vocal on that issue. On Huawei, again, I feel that the one of the reasons why it is perhaps a little bit more pertinent for security issues to be taken into account at the moment is because we are living in a world where we are increasingly dependent on the cyberspace for our work. So whether it is businesses or companies, research facilities, universities, everybody is doing more and more work online, and therefore uh, I think the security issues, which may not have seemed so vital
Mm-hmm.
some months or maybe a year or 2 years ago, would be looking far more pertinent at this point of time. Uh, UK also has a prime minister who has a big majority.
Yep.
He doesn't have to look over his shoulder all the time. Uh, there is also he's more conservative in some ways than many other people. So I think some of the steps that they have taken, their concerns on human rights, for example, are very
Mm-hmm.
pertinent as well. They remain. So some of the steps that they have taken, I think, arise from all these various factors. Uh, Now, whether UK is leading Europe,
Mm-hmm.
that's a very difficult question to respond to, considering that UK has, in fact,
Yeah,
Brexited from Europe.
correct.
Yes.
And now, when we look at what's happening vis-a-vis China, and there's been so much pushback in both after what's happened in Galwan and Ladakh, and we've
Yes.
seen over the years, not if not decades, in South China Sea. You mentioned technology, espionage that the Americans and others are also worried about. How do you see the geopolitical scenario as a whole in terms of reacting to China? Hopefully as a coalition of the willing, as they call it, to change behavior that Beijing thinks it can get away with.
I think there is a new assertiveness or aggressiveness that China has been displaying. We are seeing it on our own borders in the north. Uh, there's also what's happening in Hong Kong and what has been happening in South China Sea. So all of these issues, I don't think that they are unnoticed by the rest of the world. There's also the uh, issues pertaining to trade and
Mhm.
market related issues and many other concerns that lot of countries have.
Yep.
uh, I, at this particular point of time, when countries are so preoccupied with coping with this, COVID pandemic, I would hesitate to say that a concerted kind of a global
Mm.
response is forming up, but definitely I would say that there is concern in a number of countries over these issues.
Ambassador, again, that concern is manifesting itself, like you're saying, in different forms, in different countries. We've seen even in the military sphere how the US had a passing exercise with its supercarrier, the Nimitz, with the Indian Navy. Indian Navy has had exercises with France, with Japan, and so has the US. So there are various signals on different fronts that have been sent to Beijing. In terms of the UK and India, how are our defense relations, especially our naval ties? We do have, I think, a Konkan exercise with
Yes.
the UK.
Yes, we have, we have good relations with UK. We are buying certain kinds of equipment from UK. But UK also has manufacturing capacity in the defense sector, and I feel that in the context of Make in India in particular,
Mm-hmm.
there can be good opportunities for India UK collaboration, and that is something I think that we can see, we can hope that it will be taken forward and it will develop and bloom further in the months and years to come.
If I remember correctly, I think it was sometime early 2019 when the then Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral Lanba, had come and met his counterpart. That time there were lots of reports that the UK wanted to somehow have some kind of understanding to station the QE2, the Queen Elizabeth II aircraft carrier, somewhere on India's shores, maybe Goa. What can you tell us about that, considering what's happening in terms of naval efforts?
That is a very specific question, and that is something that would, attitudes on that would have to be discussed with the official channels rather than with,
Sure.
with non-official channels. But having said so, I think naval cooperation is a good thing between India and UK and with other partners. But India also has certain, way of looking at the world,
Yeah.
and I think that cannot be lost sight of as well.
When you're talking about cooperation again, and you mentioned COVID, and everybody is affected with that around the world. Now, we've heard reports of the Oxford University's
Yes,
potential vaccine. It is in
yes,
collaboration with Zeneca and the Pune Institute of
yes.
India.
Serum,
So,
yes,
tell us a little bit more of that. I mean, of course, it's still in the potential
yes,
stage, and we don't
yes,
even know how much. It'll probably, we heard reports that if it is successful, and there are positive signs so far,
yes,
that maybe it
yes,
costs like they will charge about 1,000 rupees for
yes.
that. What more can you tell us on that front?
Well, I remember that earlier in the year when COVID had just in UK it had already taken hold, but in India it was not really so widespread. At that time, we had set up a mechanism to discuss, to have a weekly discussion with the UK Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Lord Tariq Ahmed, and I remember discussing with him because it was. He said that this would be a very good thing if the Oxford vaccine, could be. Some discussion could take place and some arrangement could be worked out with the
Mm-hmm.
Serum Institute. So this is actually, it's a really good model, and I would see this as a very good opening for India-UK relations in the future. Something that is developed, researched in the UK, and then manufactured in India. This way, we can pool together the strengths of both the countries. UK is really good in research, innovation, design, technology, and India can easily adapt because we also are good in all these aspects, but at the same time, we have also skilled professionals, skilled labor, uh, lower costs, and numbers. So I think it would be a very good model, not just for pharmaceuticals or for vaccines, but for other things as well. And in this context, actually, I'm reminded of an acquisition that TVS Motors had in April when they acquired, UK's iconic motorcycle brand
Yeah.
Norton, and TVS can, really benefit from this kind of an acquisition. Then we have the Tata Jaguar collaboration, which is beneficial to both sides. So I think collaborations of this kind between India and UK really can set a very positive tone for the way the relations pan out between our two countries in the future.
The UK, there have been negative tones, though, in the past over Kashmiri separatists, Khalistani separatists, and what's been happening there. And we've seen the recent reports of how the APPGA, the all-party parliamentary group, was actually paid to something like 30 lakhs to travel to both Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. What would you like to say about that? Because there is a constituency, at least it seems like, among the Labour MPs who peddle that line, if I can put it like that.
Yeah. Well, there are a number of members of parliament in UK, and I would start with that before I come to the APPG. There are
Sure.
some members of parliament and who, according to my interlocutors and friends whom I spoke to in from the UK Parliament, who were described as what a single track pony. People who are really focused only on one agenda, and that one agenda is Kashmir and an anti-India position on Kashmir. Now, APPG for Kashmir is, what has come out in this report. I think there would be much more than, there is no evidence for me to say this, but I don't think that this is the only, element of the support that they have received. But be that as it may, there we have to also look at the positions that they have been taking. Their agenda has been just uh, anti-India narrative and uncritical acceptance of Pakistan's narrative on the Pakistani occupied Kashmir. So, in fact, they listen to the voices of a certain kind of groups,
Mm.
but which want to express a certain kind of opinion. They have never given, to the best of my knowledge, they have never given any scope or room or opportunity for Kashmiri Pandits in UK to speak about their story, nor have they provided opportunity to several other groups from the Pakistan occupied Kashmir itself,
Mm.
especially those from Gilgit Baltistan, those who would want to come and talk about human rights violations in Pakistan occupied Kashmir and Gilgit Baltistan. There are, one has read and heard of
Mm.
reports of enforced disappearances and
Yep.
other human rights violations, but those are not, to the best of my knowledge, those are not the issues that concern them. It is only their concern is limited to what they see to be happening without verification in India, in Jammu and Kashmir. So
Mm.
I think to that extent, uh, around in UK Parliament, those who know, I mean, people in Parliament, they understand that
Mm.
this is what this is all about. It's a single issue, group, uh, which to all appearances
Mhm.
seems to be motivated by certain sections of Pakistani diaspora
Yep.
who try to, outreach to their MPs, and so I think to that extent, that is the limit of their, attitude.
And again, you, as in our diplomat, said the High Commission has faced that.
Yes.
And again, there have been linkages. Again, it seems to the Pakistani diaspora, even to the protests that were held
Yes.
outside the High Commission.
Yes, in fact, I must say that the almost the 3/4 of last year, there were a series of protests, and most of them unpleasant, that were held outside our High Commission. But right in the beginning of 2019, I think there was one protest in which they burnt our flag,
Mm.
and there were other violent activities as well. But uh, two protests in particular on 15th of August and then one in early September, they turned violent. And on 15th of August, in fact, there were some groups of members of the Indian diaspora who were celebrating outside on the side of the High Commission who had come there to celebrate our Independence Day, they got boxed in by groups of these very violent looking, vicious looking, very vocal, loud protesters who were banging on our, throwing frozen bottles and all that. We were all inside the High Commission. I was personally there as well, and I could see that there were women and children and elderly people, and there was I was increasingly concerned about their welfare, and I had to really approach the UK. We had to approach the UK law and order authorities, including the Home Secretary herself and her office. And it took a long time before we were able to before the riot police was able to come and make room for them, and we were able to open one door for a few minutes for them to all come inside. So those were really traumatic demonstrations, because on both occasions our window panes were broken. On one occasion smoke bombs were thrown at the building, and it was really surprising that during these demonstrations, members of parliament, especially those of Pakistani origin, from the Labour Party, were also present. And therefore, it was, I think, not just a matter of concern to us, but also to people, members of the Indian diaspora, who took this very, very seriously. In fact, that on the second occasion, the damage and the filth that was created was cleaned by a group of young people from our diaspora who came forward to help us and clean up the mess that was left behind by these so-called protesters.
You were calling the roots behind this one-horse ponies, and we've seen what happened to the Labour Party itself in the elections. So it seems like they're only catering to their constituency. But another association with Pakistan is terrorism. How are India and the UK cooperating in terms of that, and especially when now it's with Daesh and Islamic State, and we do know that the subcontinental or Indian origin people have been attracted to those groups as well?
Yes. Well, before I respond to that, let me say one thing, that the new leadership of the Labour Party under Sir Keir Starmer has made it very clear that they do not want to get involved with bilateral issues between India and Pakistan. We have to wait and see how that pans out. And I had very good interaction actually with the Shadow Foreign Secretary Lisa Nandi and the Shadow Minister for Asia and the Pacific as well. So that is about the Labour Party. But coming to terrorism, yes, there are. I think both countries are remain concerned. There are elements in UK that are of concern to us. We periodically bring our concerns to the attention of the UK government. We see some. I think there is greater appreciation and understanding of India's concerns on these issues, and I feel hopeful that going forward there will be very good collaboration with UK on these issues. But UK, of course, it has its own strong commitment to certain values, which also is they have to take into account.
Sure. Also, they have to take into account the legal system.
Yes.
What would you have to share with us about the whole Vijay Mallya case?
Well, all the cases, he has not been successful. I mean, in all the appeals that he has made. From what I know, because the last development was after I left UK, and I saw that there was a statement, I think, issued by the British High Commission as well in Delhi, that there are some unresolved legal issues. Now, there is speculation what those unresolved legal issues are, whether he has some pending civil cases or whether he has sought asylum. But that is speculation, and I would not want to go into speculation. My own experience, of course, I don't know whether that is applicable at this particular juncture or not, but my own experience was that any legal matter that goes to the Home Office is examined very, very thoroughly before the Home Secretary signs on to it. Whether this is, just that examination that is currently going on, or is there anything more to it, that I wouldn't be able to say.
Ambassador Ruchi Ghanashyam, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us, not just in the UK, your experience of over 38 years as a diplomat. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
ma'am, for your time.
Thank you so much, Amitabh. A pleasure talking to you.
And just a reminder to all our viewers, if you want to get the latest news and analysis from an Indian perspective, you can go to our website, StratNewsGlobal.com. You follow our social handles on Twitter, on Facebook, and Instagram. And if you want to get live reminders of videos like this that we put up, just click on the bell icon on our YouTube channel. You're watching Strat News Global. I'm Amitabh P.